And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another off-season supporter series. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there may be no footy on the television right now, but we have to keep footy alive. Let's keep talking to it. And going off my thing this year, I want to talk with American and international fans. I want to know why somebody that is not from Australia loves the great game that is Australian rules football. And joining me on today's podcast from snowy Kentucky, that would be Tyler. Tyler, thanks for hopping on the podcast today.
Yeah, sure, my pleasure.
Well, it is absolutely great to have you on. It's interesting to hear you say snowy Kentucky, considering I'm in Iowa and there's very little snow on the ground right now. So it just makes me chuckle a little bit. So before we get into the footy and we talk about how you, as an American in Kentucky, love the game of football, let's find out just the littlest bit about you personally outside. So just a little bit about you outside of the game of football.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised right in Central Kentucky in Lexington. And then around about 2005, I decided to take my talents to the States military. Um, so I spent 6 years in the Navy, and three of those in Japan, the other three on the West Coast, and stuck out there for a little longer. Um, Moved back here, got into some odd jobs, finished school, and now I've been working for UK healthcare for about 10 years. Just working, raising a family, trying to do my best. So,
Hey, that's all we can ask for is just trying to do your best. But let's get on to it. This is a footy podcast. Let's talk some footy. So I love asking this because it's always fun to hear the differences when it comes to it. We all have it. What is your finding footy story?
so the first time I found it was actually we were on a port call in New Caledonia, which I don't know if you're familiar or even know where New Caledonia is. It's this island a few hundred miles off the northeast coast of Australia. And we were there. It was middle of summer. It was June or July. Um, and I guess it's a big vacation spot for Aussies. And so, but it's a French colony. So one of the few channels that were English speaking were Australian channels. And we turned it on, and I saw this game happening.
Hmm.
And I was watching, trying to figure out what I was looking at. Really had no clue. I just know there seemed to be a million people on the field. There was kicking, and there was some score that I couldn't quite figure out at the bottom. There was just a lot of numbers, and I'm like, okay, well, I
Hmm.
guess that team's winning because that's the bigger number.
Hmm.
uh, and I went down. We went down to the bar, and of course there were some Australians down there. I just asked one of them because it was on the down there. And I say, "You got to tell me what am I looking at?"
Hmm.
And that's when they told me, "Oh, this is Aussie rules." And I was like, "Okay." uh, and then, and I had at the time I was playing rugby, so I'm very familiar with rugby, and I played that for a while. Um, Still kind of vaguely follow it, uh, but then a few years ago, I came across the Amazon series that Making the Mark,
Hmm.
um, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember AFL," and just kind of just got back into it, you know.
Hmm.
And then, so I got on the streaming machine and like, oh, I can watch these games on TV now. Go watch everything on TV. So I guess the rest is history. So,
That's fantastic. Again, everybody finds it differently. Everybody's story has a little knack to it. So I always love asking that question because it is funny how some of us internationals find this beloved game in so many different ways. So I always love finding out that story. So all right. So you're obviously a fan. You started to fall in love with the sport. So I got to ask, what's your favorite part about Aussie rules football?
I think you know one of the things that it's why I love like rugby too. Um, it's why I think a lot of, especially Americans this side of the pond, you know, don't really seem to get, what kind of what I call Euro sports almost, rugby, traditional football, soccer, AFL especially, is because to them it's. I say always say you have to have an attention span to watch sports.
Mhm.
you know, because people always say like, oh, soccer doesn't happen, and I say, don't actually. A lot happens. They just don't score.
Mhm.
you know, rugby the same way, but I never understood why Americans don't like rugby because it's hard hitting, it's fast paced, there's a lot of scoring, but you just have to sit and watch it for 40 minutes at a time.
Mhm.
Uh, and then, but to kind of segue into AFL, I think it's almost kind of the organized chaos of it.
Mhm.
uh, that it's it at its core, it is such a simple game. You know,
Mhm.
it. Unlike American football, basketball, where you're always running all kinds of plays, this and that going on. It's really just it's the ball from this end to the other end and kick it between the two middle posts. that's that's kind of all you got to do.
Mhm. No, 100%. It's one of those that I coach up here in Des Moines, and it's the same thing. It's like I tell a lot of people, I said, in all the game is relatively simple. It's just complicated with more people because it just makes things that much more difficult. But 100%, it is such a unique sport, and it's so fast paced. I tell a lot of people, I said, if Americans could see this a lot more, I think they'd fall in love with this more than American football because there's almost a little bit of that fanciness of basketball with that brutality of football into it that I think
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of Americans would absolutely fall in love with. So 100% with you on that one. So
And
I,
then, but I
go
think
ahead.
Americans are also uniquely averse to anything that has to deal with thinking.
Mhm.
Yeah, I never quite understood that, but it's like once you involve kicking regularly in a sport, because we're just used to the one guy who comes on and kicks, right?
Mhm.
But it's like, what do you mean everybody's kicking? No, we don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's not supposed to be able to do that. That's for the little guy that stands in the corner. No, I 100% get it.
Exactly,
It
exactly.
is very, very true. But I think I find it interesting now that so many Americans are so used to seeing Australia just because so many Australian punters are in the NCAA nowadays. That so it's I'm
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm thinking there it's maybe starting to change just the tiniest bit, but we'll really have to see on that. So let's change tack just the tiniest bit because as you said, you've seen it on TV. So I got to ask this. There's a league here in the States. Have you ever played Aussie rules football? And if not, would you if you could?
Absolutely would. Uh, I briefly looked into it. I want to say last summer, maybe the summer before. There is a club up in Cincinnati,
Hmm.
which is about an hour and a half from me. Uh, but of course, their games could be in Cleveland or Columbus or
Hmm.
Nashville, and I practice on a Tuesday. And it's like, well, I really can't get up there on a you know.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Um, I batted around trying to start a club locally. I just don't really have the numbers. On my way to work every day, I pass someone. They must be getting off at night shift because I pass them and they've got an Aussie flag front license plate. I was just want to be like, I wish I could like stop them and be like, hey, the
Mhm.
AFL fans in the area that way.
Yeah. No, 100, I 100%. And the funny part is that once you start noticing, like if you see somebody that's wearing an AFL club hat or a shirt and anything, it's like there's this almost this thing like it's a brotherhood. Like you have to go say hi to them. Like you have to,
Yeah,
how do you
yeah.
know? Like it is that funny thing or it always that fascinating connection. So no, I completely get it. Sometimes starting a club sometimes is difficult. And I know some of the guys up in Cincinnati. I know the Cincinnati University just started a team as well, which is
Yeah,
fascinating, which which is fascinating for them. But yeah, it's one of it's a lot of fun when you get a chance to play it. It is organized chaos a little bit, especially for us because we just grab and we kick. There isn't as much thought process, but it's a lot of fun. So we kind of talked about a little bit is that how did you get into the AFL? Like I know you saw it, you teased it a little bit. Like what was it that got you into it? To us like I'm gonna definitely keep track and decide on a club.
I think it was probably, um, it's great because, the start of the AFL season kind of aligns perfectly with the, I guess, downtime of everything but baseball, really.
Hmm.
Well, in MLS. So it's kind of like, well, I kind of need something to, keep me occupied in the summer, something I can watch in the morning when I wake up.
Hmm.
Normally, or like I'll get up and I'll check the score. Like really do it,
Hmm.
or I'll usually watch a replay, or uh, I think sometimes at night I can catch one if I'm up late. Uh, but and I think that was kind of the main thing. Is honestly, it was probably from a heartbreaking Kentucky basketball loss. And I'm like, well, I need something to occupy my time.
No, I 100% get it. And the funny part is, I know a couple of people who I've talked to that were huge baseball fans, and then they got into AFL, and with baseball kind of decreasing and all the changing of the rules, that they basically switched to completely a footy fan. They don't even watch baseball now. So it's fascinating how people get into it. So let's jump right into it. Those that are watching the YouTube channel already know, but for those that are listening, I'd love to know who is your club and why.
So I am a Melbourne Football Club supporter, and I am a member of the Melbourne Football Club. Uh, and to be honest, I don't know how I fell on. I think it was, I pulled it up. Was looking at all the clubs. Kentucky had a punter a few years ago. He actually won the Ray Guy Award. And Max
Hmm.
Duffy, he played for Frio, I think, for a season or two.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, that just makes too much sense, you know. Uh, and then of course, I think a lot of Americans seem to be gravitating towards Collingwood, especially now.
Hmm.
Uh, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. And then so I think I think sort of my default is like, all right, like what's the OG, like what's the original? Yeah.
Hmm.
And so I was like, all right, Melbourne, like I gotta do it. And I think they kind of sum it up because like they've had some really long seasons down in the basement,
Hmm.
but but they're kind of that level now where they could, they could be premiers or they could finish last. What way is the ball going to bounce?
Yeah, definitely interesting. But the good thing is you've come in when they still have a lot of talent and they're still in that premiership window
Yeah, yeah.
so they just with them recently having that premiership in 2001, so it's like you've tasted success, you've been there, they've made finals. So you're catching on to a D's team that I think they're still there's still a lot of optimism and I think there's a lot of things going well for them. So as an American, this is always fun because I love this is that I see that you got your Melbourne Demons hat. So I ask, what was the first Melbourne Demons item that you were ever given or bought?
So it was probably I have a scarf actually,
Hmm.
and I think I got it off of Play Aussie.
Hmm.
I got that and uh, probably see the ball. I got it back over here. I got that and the ball that I'll go out and pick around the backyard. uh,
Hmm.
but I've got the scarf, I got a hat, and I got a
Yep. Sometimes those are the best things to have is that scarf. I know that when I talked with a few of my Australian friends, some of them they have the woolen scarves from like the late 80s and the 70s, which is always fun that they have all those memories backed up into it. So as I tell a lot of people over here in the States is that to be an Aussie rules fan over here in the States takes a little bit of insanity. It takes a little bit of being crazy because your team and your game sometimes could be played at 2 in the morning, at 3 in the morning, at midnight, at 4 in the morning. So I always have fun with this, especially talking with American or international fans, is that I like finding out their fandom because I know fandom is different with everybody. Sometimes fandom is insane, like me. I wake up at 2 in the morning. If the game starts at 2, I'm up. I'm watching the game. I'm doing everything I can to be sure I don't miss a single minute. So I love asking, can you describe your fandom of the Melbourne Demons for me?
Uh, I don't know if it's a set the alarm to wake up and watch my fandom.
That's fine.
Like I said, with a with a 5-year-old, full time job, it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, I could wake up at 3 a.m. But you know, uh, but it is certainly a check the score. If it happens to be going on when I'm awake, I will turn it on or at least try to find it,
Hmm.
and watch. But it is certainly always I pretty much know the fixtures, or at least week to week. I'll be like, all right, like when there's when the match this week, and,
Hmm.
and who we playing, uh, and checking standings every week. Okay, like I get in that 8.
Yep.
We need 2 more points. Just can't drop this week.
Yep. No, completely get it. So it's a just and you keep track of it. You're making sure there's again, everybody fans differently. I have no issue with anybody. Again, everybody fans differently. I appreciate fandom very much so because I know what it has done for me. I've met many a friend in Australia that are fascinated and have found me to be quite the interesting person when it comes to it, that I'm supporting a club over in Australia and given everything to it. So again, I completely, again, everybody is different. So let's have some fun. I know you've probably dove into it because there's players, especially at the Melbourne Demons, is it has a long lineage of some fantastic players. So do you have a favorite player of the past, not in the current day? And then do you have a favorite player currently on the D's list?
Currently, past no. Um, like you said, we're certainly too from. Um, but currently, um, I'd say Petrarca's probably too easy to pick. Um, I really like Heavy Pickett. I
Mhm.
really like his game. Van Ryan did a lot, for a new fresh face last year, really kind of coming up, like what he's doing. Um, it was a sad day when, Gut decided to hang up the boots,
Mhm.
but, it's understandable. I had to hang up mine from rugby, because of concussion issues. So I understand that. But yeah, uh, I feel like Heavy Pickett, he's never in that talk of like real impact players, but he always seems to get gold. And like, it's like every day, it's like every match. I mean, like, oh, Heavy Pickett just taking 3 goals again.
Mhm. Nope, 100%. Kazi Pickett's one of those that he may not get 15 disposals. He may only get four, but sometimes his four could be 4 goals. That's just how
Yeah.
impactful he is sometimes. Bailey Fritch is another one I absolutely
Yeah,
enjoy.
yeah,
Not just
yeah,
because I swear to God his hair doesn't move when he plays, which is always so much fun. And then you
yeah,
gotta love Maxi. You gotta love Maxi Gone. You gotta love the
yeah,
big Gawny.
yeah,
You cannot not love Gawny. He's a character. I absolutely love him to death. He does everything that he possibly can for the club. He handles all of his responsibilities out in the public with so much class and grace. I've always loved Gandhi. I've always respected him. So the D's is one of those teams that there's a lot of good talent, and they're getting younger and they're getting a little bit more talent into the board. So you've got those great top 10 players, and now you're getting some youngsters with some super talent. So they're
yeah,
definitely going to be a fun team to watch in the
yeah.
future.
It's like you got Piney there, kind of just being a backbone.
Hmm.
You know the the lever, antics kind of get on my nerves a little bit, but I mean,
And
what you
usually
think?
it's May that gets on everybody's nerves.
I like that fighter.
He's a tough bastard. I
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
love Stephen May to death. Like I
yeah,
said, he may annoy some people, but he's one of those that you'd absolutely take him on your team every
yeah,
time you
yeah.
possibly can. So we're throwing out names. I thought let's have some fun. Is that let's talk about last year. I mean, unfortunately, wasn't the season that you wanted. I know going into the season, the D's were a team that people were talking about being in the Premiership talk. They were being talked about that team that was there, and unfortunately, that particular dream did not turn out. So, just real quickly, I know you keep track of it. Thoughts on last year's D season?
Yeah, the injury bug kept flying in a little bit. Um, and you've seen in American sports too. They seem to have a bad habit last year of turning one loss into two or three.
Hmm.
And they would hit these stretches that like, okay, you win one, you win two, you win three. It's like, okay, like here we go. And then we just like laid it hunker, if they're coming out of the match with like, wait, what's your point? Like how is that possible at this sport? Yeah, we, it, but you keep pulling out hope. Um, and and again, we kind of talked about before we flew on there, but not North Melbourne. So
Trying
um,
not to throw shade, really trying not to.
I know, but it's kind of it was like I said too. They didn't have it last year, but it's kind of the thing you always say, and uh, yeah, like a basketball fan, like you want to be in the conversation.
Hmm.
Don't have to win it, but if you're in the conversation, you're doing the right thing. You get, like I said before, as long as ball's going to bounce a certain way sometimes. So it just,
Yep. Nope, it's definitely going to happen. It's one of those that these last couple of years have shown that just because you're not in the top four doesn't mean that you have a chance for a premiership. So it's just get into the finals and just see what happens. Like I completely agree with that because this league is just there's so much parity in the league. There's
yeah,
so many good
yeah.
teams that it's every year. I mean, there's 14 teams that could fight for a play fight for a spot in the finals. So it's one of those. It is an absolute dog fight the entire season, and it's fun. It is so much fun. And this is a D's team that a healthy Christian Petrarca coming back in is going to be fun. So we'll jump from that.
Well, he's out again.
What I know, unfortunately, I just saw
Yeah.
that he unfortunately went down with an
Like as of
injury.
yesterday, he's out again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in training. Unfortunately, it sounds like he may be back
Yeah.
by the start of the home and away, but we'll definitely have to see how it goes. It definitely cracking a rib is not easy, and especially with the running capacity that these men have to have. But just really quickly, we'll go to the next one is like if Petrarca is healthy. What are your thoughts on next year? Do you think the D's are a legitimate chance to push the Brisbanes, the Sydneys, the Collingwoods, the Hawthorns, the Port Adelaides for a final spot or maybe even a flag?
Yeah. I mean, it it's kind of one of those things like, that there's no reason to say no,
Mhm.
and like we said, they got the talent, they got the young talent, and um, you know, in this sport especially, right? When those injuries come, man, those injuries. I mean, I feel like maybe more than any sport, like one, which is odd because there's so many people on the field, but one injury can wreck you. It's just, which is so odd in and of itself. Uh, but yeah, it, I think one thing that's interesting is just because of the way the league structure is, this is sort of a, 35,000 TQ or TQ. It's not like, like uh, college football or something where you've got like 4 or 5 teams that are always going to be in the playoff. Like you had Western, playing Melbourne for their premiership a few years ago, and 2 years later they're fighting for a wooden spoon.
Mm-hmm.
It's or GWS last year, who we thought it looked like they may play in the grand final, and the year before they were with
Mm-hmm.
they were battling North Melbourne for that wooden spoon. So it's so weird.
Yeah, everything is different. Biggest thing I can say is that I think the one person that I think really makes Melbourne go, and if he's on form, he can make Melbourne scary as Max Gone. I know everybody's like Petrarca and Oliver, yes, but Petrarca and Oliver really do benefit from Max Gone's brilliance. And if Max Gone can stay healthy and they can keep him on the park. The biggest question will be is he's getting older. He's not a spring chicken anymore. He'll openly admit it. I've heard in interviews. He's breaking down, he's wearing down. So the biggest thing is can they keep him healthy? And if they can keep him healthy, can they keep him at the top of his game? If so, he's gonna make Melbourne go. If he goes, Melbourne goes. Petrarca, Oliver, they can have bad games and still they can win games. But if Gone disappears, it can really, really hurt the D's. So I'm thinking finals is definitely a possibility. Like I said, injury bug can hit at any time. I think there's always a team that for some reason just gets hit with the injury bug. I mean, Richmond had the injury bug absolutely obliterate them last year. And
Yeah.
I think it's not the only reason why they were in the dumps last year a little bit. I think there was a lot of chaos coming in after that. So but I look at it and I go, anything is possible. Anything is possible. And this, like I said, there's tons of talent in there. There's some youth and inexperience that's growing. That's going to be so much fun to watch. The D's is definitely. I'm fascinated by them next year. They're an enigma team for me. I can't. You just don't know where they're going to turn out. So, which is a good thing. I think enigma teams are hard to guess. Which they, like I said, they can either be absolutely in fuego or they can be as cold as the ice box in January. So you just never know. So let's have a little bit of fun. I love this because I know, especially over here in the States, and you know this is we all want to be the general manager. We all think we can do the job. We all think that we can make the moves to make our team better, especially in professional sports. So let's have a little bit of fun. Okay, I'm going to install you as the Melbourne Demons list manager for one day. You can bring in one player from any of the other 17 teams to get Melbourne over that hump, to maybe make them a premiership team next year. Who's that one player you get to join the good old Demons?
I wonder if they made the box purely for the fact that he was American.
That's an interesting choice.
Just if I'm the list manager and I'm an American, well, let's just bring him over because he's an American. Because I like my squad.
Nothing wrong with that. Hey,
But
that's an interesting choice. I like it. Honestly, for me, you want to know who I think would be fantastic, and just because he has D's connections, I think Jesse Hogan would be a fantastic addition from GWS, just because he'd give you that stable full forward, so then Bailey Fritsch and your man Kazi Pickett can have that get those crumbs off of him. So I think he would be a fantastic addition. But Mason Cox, hey, he can go forward. I mean, 2017, Richmond is still shaking in their boots from that incredible performance with him in that particular game. So there's nothing wrong with that. Not a problem at all. So I love what people will come up with it. So many people that listen to my podcast know I am a huge supporter of the women's game. I love the AFLW, and I support the State League women's as well. So I have to ask, do you watch any AFLW? And if so, do you keep track of the Demons?
um, I do try to keep track of them. I watch what I can, if I, 'cause obviously I have them in all my socials and stuff. So,
Hmm.
if they pop up, I'll watch highlights. And I mean, I will say that the AFLW squad is good. I mean, they're they're up there. So uh, I certainly don't follow it as much as I should.
Mhm.
Um, but I having a daughter, I she was
Mhm.
I'm in a hockey beer league, and she was like, I'm like, you know, we can sign up for hockey, we can sign up for soccer, you can do.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. So and again, there's no problem with that. Again, the women's league is growing leaps and bounds. I think the Melbourne Demons team is one of those. I'm very intrigued going into next year because again, unfortunately, the dynasty that is the Melbourne Demons list for the longest period of time is slowly kind of decompressing. But I think this draft this year, they picked up some absolutely magnificent pieces that I think will help them rebound just a littlest bit quicker. I cannot wait for that. So, but I'm one of those. Is there anything that maybe the AFLW could do? I mean, again, time zone difference. I mean, we know about that. Is there anything that maybe would maybe the AFLW could do to get your attention a little bit more?
Oh, gosh, no, I don't think I ever thought about that. I mean, and being a Melbourne, member, I mean, I think they do a pretty decent, if not very good job. Certainly, Twitter, X, whatever it is, uh, YouTube, Facebook, all those promoting the AFLW.
Hmm.
So I think they're doing a good job. I mean, maybe it could a little more help from the top. Of course, certainly, I think in Australia at the local level, it's kind of like the NWSL curse here.
Hmm.
Um, it's just because we have Racing Louisville who I follow, um, but it's hard to follow something when you know,
Hmm. I
you
completely
know,
get it. I mean, I even have some friends over in Australia that they just wish there was more promotion, or they just wish that the games were at a little bit better times for families to watch, or more prime time games, so it's a little bit easier if you got a busy afternoon to be able to watch the game. So again, I'm 100% with you. I think AFL House has really disrespected AFLW. If I'm being honest with you, I think that there's so many times that they say that they want these girls to get more games, but then they conveniently pick game times that are not always the best for fans to come. And I think that sometimes really does hurt the AFLW product because talent wise, it's getting better and better every year. I think this is something that they have to let it grow a little bit. They can't force it. It's going to come. I think the fans will start coming more and more as they see more and more skill coming in because these girls are playing it from younger and younger ages, which I
yeah,
think is
yeah,
only good for the product because I've been watching the state leagues the last 3 years, and the skill level is getting better and better each year, which only
uh,
means more AFLW talent is getting better and better. So
maybe if they thought of something, it's kind of like the PWHL is doing here now, where they're kind of doing this barnstorming tour, you know, uh, what was it,
yep.
like Quebec and New York played in Seattle,
Hmm.
like, you know, take them, take it to the streets,
Yep.
kind of just get it out there, get it on TV,
You never know. I know Colorado. They played a game in Colorado, and the fans started chanting, "We want a team!" So,
yeah, yeah,
which is fantastic. I thoroughly, absolutely love it. It is incredible that we're seeing women's sports getting the explosion that I think they actually deserve. So we'll jump back to it. As you said, you saw this in a bar. I have to ask this. Have you ever been to Australia and seen a game live? And if not, will you, or do you think you ever will take that opportunity to go down under and check out a game live?
I have been to Australia, uh, Townsville, Queensland,
Mhm.
which of course is, uh, prime NRL country.
Mhm.
So pretty much all the bars there had NRL, which was fine with me because I was a rugby fan
Mhm.
too. I would absolutely go to Australia to go to a game. If I could get down there, I told my wife that if we were to do very really an hour flight, we have to go probably about 2, 3 weeks. Um,
Mhm.
but we'll definitely go to Melbourne and go to the game. I think I even looked at like getting tickets just out of curiosity.
Mhm.
And I guess, and technically being a member, I could
Yeah, I know with my international membership, unfortunately I don't. But the one thing is that if you have friends down in Australia, especially that are D's fans, definitely reach out to them because I know many of them, they are super keen that if they've got a couple extra tickets, they will let you hop on. So it's one of the things I think I've got at least probably three people that have already said if I ever get down to Sydney that they would have tickets for me to go to the SCG, which I makes me makes me blush a little bit that so many people want me to make it to the game, which I think it'd be fantastic. But it
But
just
yeah,
shows
no,
you, oh yeah,
I mean,
oh yeah.
yeah, I love live sports. I'll pretty much go to probably not the rest of your time.
All
So,
right, so we'll change my next couple of questions just this the tiniest bit because as you said, you want to get to Australia to see a game because as I said, you are an NRL country, which again, I think it's funny that my team's in NRL country, but I want to go to
right.
footies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always kind of fun. But so if you do go down, is there a food product that only is in Australia that you would really love to try if you went to a game?
So I have sort of another story here.
Okay.
When when I was stationed in San Diego, it was one of my there was the last time they did the USA Sevens rugby tournament in San Diego.
Hmm.
It was the last year they did it, and they had a meat pie stand.
Awesome, awesome.
I probably ate about five or six of them. I loved them, and so anytime if I'm on YouTube and people go into MTV or something like that, and they're like, "We have to get a meat pie." I'm like, "Yeah, you have to get a meat
Hmm.
pie." and,
So
and
I gotta ask this. I don't mean to interrupt, but I'll ask for the Australian fans that are watching this with sauce or not.
so the ones I had were not did not have sauce. I had this. Uh, yeah, it was. They did it at Petco Park, the baseball stadium in San Diego. And,
Hmm.
they had like this kind of little like the festival area. It was like, oh, meat pie. That sounds like a some weird thing to try. And I tried one, and I'm like, I need at least two more.
Hmm.
um,
That is fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. I told this story a few times that I actually make for grand final day every year. I make my own Australian bee pies
okay,
for
okay,
the grand final every year, and it's so much fun. I make them a tiny bit bigger than what they're probably made is down there. So I know the 4 and 20 pie, they're a little more handheld. Mine are just the tiniest bit bigger, so they're a little bit more of a meal. But it has become my kind of my little tradition that I do is I make Aussie meat pies for the grand final, so it's a lot of fun. So. And if you do go, you're definitely probably going to go since it's the home ground, the mighty MCG. Is there a place that you really want to sit? Do you want to sit up high? Do you want to sit right down with the supporters with supporter section? Where is it that you want to sit when you go?
I probably don't want to sit down low because I don't want a giant pom pom hitting me in the head. Uh,
I love it.
um, and yeah, I mean, it's so active. Um, I think I was looking recently, and I figured I think my ideal seat would probably be like center field, like that third upper bowl, like the first row of that upper bowl. I think that would be perfect. I see the whole field, both ends, but be not like not very back, but close enough to kind of be out there. Uh, I don't. At most sporting events, I really don't like to sit down low.
Hmm.
Um, I kind of like the TV view.
Hmm. Up a little bit higher, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm one of those. I told a few people just because of my coaching background, I want to watch it in like the second or third tier to where you can kind of see the entire field, so
yeah,
you can kind of see the movement of the players. Definitely like the coaches' boxes are probably up in that area. So I tell a lot of people that's probably my ideal place that I'd love to go. I know it's a little bit away from the action, but I want to be able to see the movement of the players. I think it'd be fascinating to watch a game from that little area. So. And last but not least, this is my favorite one because this is a lot of fun for me. I always end my series asking, what is the favorite game of footy you have ever seen? Whether you watched it live, whether you watched it on tape delay. Favorite game of football you have ever seen.
I mean, I think I have to go. for that for the 21 grand final. I mean,
Hmm.
I mean, is it a question? Especially was it? I guess it was with to start the second half where I mean they just came out. And, I mean, it was just like rocket fire. I mean, it's like the truck just like one after another. You know, like went on a roll, and I think that was probably. And of course, obviously that was less on delay. Uh, uh, and then and sprinkled in there some, maybe some big comebacks they've had in the last few years. Uh, if you know who they were, but I think there was one where it was, at the horn, maybe after the horn,
Hmm.
you know, a 50 meter, right down the middle.
Hmm. Well, I think there was one even year that Max Gone kicked a game winner after the siren down in Geelong. That was a pretty impressive win for them there too. So yeah, the D's have had played in some absolute classics, both on the winning end and unfortunately sometimes on the losing end. Well, Tyler, that is it. That is all my questions. This has been an absolutely fantastic chat. Again, finding people that are international fans that love the sport as much as I do is it's absolutely fantastic. I really do appreciate you coming on the podcast because it's been fun learning not only your love of footy, but also your love of the Melbourne Demons.
Yeah, thanks. It's a pleasure.
So I truly, truly appreciate it, Tyler. It's been fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals. Again, keep an eye out. More of these chats are coming. I have got several lined up. I cannot wait. I have some very interesting connections that I'm hoping to do. I maybe even have a few other international fans that I'm going to try to get on the podcast to get us to March and to get us to the start of the AFL season and also the Sandful W season because you guys know I love my state league football and especially the women's game there as well. So that'll do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals, and we will be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.